Good afternoon. My name is Rick Hart. I'm a Deputy Chief with the Waterbury Fire Department and Director of Legislative and Political Affairs for the Uniformed Professional Firefighters Association of Connecticut. On behalf of Mayor O'Leary and Acting Fire Chief Terry Ballou, welcome to Waterbury Fire Department Station 10. 12 months ago, almost to the day, Mayor O'Leary, Joe DeLong, Ron Thomas, and Brian O'Connor from CCM, along with Pete Carrozza and myself, met in the UPFFA office in West Hartford to discuss PTS. Out of that initial meeting came an agreement to establish a working group to draft legislation that culminated in Public Act 19-17 and brought us to this auspicious occasion today. There are many to thank, most notably President Carrozza, Mayor O'Leary, for spearheading this effort. I would like to personally thank CCM, Joe DeLong, Brian O'Connor, and Mike Mashinsky, and Bristol Mayor Ellen Zappo-Sasso for their cooperation, collaboration, and counsel. To the leadership of the four caucuses, Speaker Arasimowicz, President Pro Tem Senator Looney, Majority Leader Senator Duff, Majority Leader Ritter, Senate Republican Leader Fasano, Senate Republican Pro Tem Witkos, Deputy Minority Leader Candelora, and Senator Austin. Thank you for your leadership and support, and especially Senator Austin, who never gave up the fight to see this through. Minority Leader Claritas was unable to attend. She's at a convention. She sends her regrets, but we want to say thank you to her as well for her leadership throughout the process. To the chairs, Representative Porter, Senator Kushner, who is also out of state, ranking members Representative Paletta, Senator Minor of the Labor and Public Employees Committee, and the chairs Representative Varengia, Senator Bradley, ranking members Representative Straczynski, and Senator Wong of the Public Safety and Security Committee. Thank you for all your help and guidance. And a special shout out to the best committee clerk, Danielle Palladino, for her unwavering support and incredible work for the Labor Committee. To Representative Riley and Representative Conley, thank you for your assistance in dealing with all the workers' compensation issues that we encountered throughout this process. And thank you to all the other legislators that took time out of their schedules to come here today. I would like to thank President Schaeferger and 3rd District Vice President Jay Colbert from the IAFF for making today's event. And also Attorney General William Tong and Jeff Morissette, the Connecticut State Fire Administrator, for coming today. And to my partners in crime at the Capitol, Brian Anderson from AFSCME, Council 4, Jimmy Paulino, Billy Malitsky, and Ross Gianfrido, thank you for your help. You were instrumental in getting this bill through the legislature. And on a side note, Jimmy and I were having a beer at the Officers Club after a marathon meeting, and he goes to me, you know, this is the hardest bill I've ever had to work. And I looked at him and I said, well, welcome to public safety. And a special note, there's a lady here that only knows too well the issues that we're facing and the reason for this bill and why it's so important. And I'd like to recognize Trish Buchanan. If she's, I thought I saw her. And most importantly, my brothers and sisters in blue and brothers and sisters in the fire service. This bill has been a labor of love of mine and a lot of other people in this room. And thank you for coming here today to be with us on this very special occasion. So, I'd like to introduce now our first speaker, the President of AFSCME Council 4, Jody Barr.
All right, since I'm the first speaker, I will be the quickest. AFSCME Council 4 has been working on this for about 25 years to reinstate it. We're extremely proud of our 41 police departments that will now receive this benefit, and we look forward to working forward. We look forward to moving next year and getting our correction officers, our dispatchers, and our EMTs the same service. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. It is now my great pleasure to introduce my good friend, Andrew Matthews, the Executive Director of the Connecticut State Police Union.
My name's Andy Matthews. This is John Castelline, President of the State Police Union, Rich McDaniel, members of our executive committee. There's too many people to thank: Mayor, Governor, Senator Austin, Pete Carosa. This is a historical day. The taxpayers of Connecticut should be proud of a group of people that are very important, gave their unwavering support to us, which is our legislators. We have nearly a unanimous vote in favor of the mental health, the stability, and the wellness and the safety of our workers in this state. It's important that we work together. Our taxpayers should be proud of the people that lead us. Our members are forced to witness some scenes that live with them forever. We'll leave it at that. Trish, thank you for being here. We have lost troopers in the line of duty. We've lost law enforcement officers in the line of duty. We've lost them off duty too. We're hopeful that now the stigma of needing treatment is no longer a stigma. We're thankful for our leadership at the legislature. We really are grateful that this day has finally come. Get our people the help they need to continue to be productive members of their organizations and clearly make sure there's no abuse, and we will be on top of that as well. So thank you very much to our legislators. We really appreciate it. We're forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. To the firefighters in this room, our next speaker needs no introduction. He has been a fierce advocate for firefighter health and safety here in Connecticut for well over 40 years. I've had the pleasure of working for him directly for the past 5 years at the UPFFA and also when he was my union president for the first 15 years of my career. His relationship with Mayor O'Leary is one of the reasons we're here today. Therefore, it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce my friend, President Peter Carosa.
Thank you very much, and it's great. This is outstanding. This is an outstanding crowd. We did not expect this. We encouraged our members throughout the state, our elected officials, to all be here, and I know there's not only representation from the House and the Senate here, but local mayors are here from across the state of Connecticut. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Let me just, and anytime you start naming names, you know, you kind of miss someone. So let me just ask our state senators that are here and our state representatives who are here, if you would just stand up, because it was because of you and your leadership in both the House and the Senate, on both sides of the aisle. That's what made this happen. So if you'd all stand and just... Thank you, Governor and Mayor Joe DeLong. I'd also like to recognize our international president, General President Harold Schaeferger, who came up from Washington to be here today. And you know the old saying, it's a big deal. Well, this is a big deal. Not only for firefighters and police officers here in the state of Connecticut, but throughout the United States. So we're very pleased that you're here with us, Mr. General President. Also, our District Vice President, Jay Colbert, came down from Massachusetts. He represents six states in the 3rd District. And Jay, thank you for being here also. We appreciate it. You know, Rick failed to mention a very important person, and that was himself. And, you know, I have never had the opportunity to meet and be with someone who was more conscientious, who really put his heart and soul into this bill. You know, it was a difficult one. We worked on it for a while. We always came up short, and it was our organizations, and I know I could speak for the police here also, that it was a priority for us in this legislative session. And he was, again, he put his heart and soul into this bill. He didn't show up like one day in the session for a photo op. He was there every day, every night, holidays, weekends, and not only in the Capitol, but he worked it outside when they were not in session, meeting with legislators, educating them on the importance of this bill. So I think we've got to recognize the one person, Rick Hart. I'd also like to recognize also our outside lobbying firm, Focus Governmental Affairs. They did an outstanding job. They worked this, I'll tell you, Focus, they were focused like a laser beam on this bill. And where are they? Jimmy, where are they? Thank you. And you know, when we put this committee together under the direction of the mayor, you know, it's funny, I was with the mayor last night, and we were talking about the first couple of meetings, and I said, you know, Mayor, did you really think that we were going to do this? And he said, I didn't think we were. And I said, geez, I felt the same way. I didn't think we were going to be able to do it, too. But the committee was made up of police officers, firefighters, insurance, mayors, fire chiefs. Who else did I miss? Police chiefs. Why did I miss that? But the committee was a great committee that was assembled under the direction of the mayor. We met right next door here just about all last year, I guess it was, and we came up with an agreement, and we agreed that that was going to be submitted to the legislature. We did a press conference, I believe, in late May, and said we've got an agreement. We think this is going to work. And there were some bumps in the road there along the line, but we were able to work those out. So I just want to thank Mayor O'Leary for his commitment, his leadership on this, because it's really because of the mayor, too, that, and again, we could name a whole lot of people who were involved with this, but I think the mayor was the lead person. So, Mayor, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And just in closing, let me just say that this is a good bill. It's a very good bill. It's going to help people, and that was our concern from day one when we started educating the legislature about this bill. It's going to help people, which is very important to us. I know it's very important to all of you, and it's going to help people in the fire and police departments across the state who go out every day and protect the citizens of our great state. So with that being said, we look forward to the governor's signature on this bill, and thanks again for all your support. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. As Executive Director of CCM, Joe DeLong has been an advocate and willing participant for working collaboratively with firefighter and police unions. His leadership has helped forge two remarkable bills just for the firefighters, our Cancer Relief Fund and today's PTSD statute. So please join me in welcoming Joe DeLong of CCM.
Thank you, Rick. Pete Carrozza called me a couple days ago, and he said, Joe, can you say a few words? And I said, no, I've never been able to say just a few words. But I'll do the best that I can, I promise. I want to give some credit to a couple people that haven't been mentioned yet that I think it's important to this day. It was in April of 2015 when I came to Connecticut to start my job as Executive Director of CCM. And literally within a few weeks of starting, I made my first visit to the Capitol in the middle of legislative session. And when I walked into the Capitol and went up into the Rotunda area, I saw our advocacy team, some of which who I didn't know very well yet, in a rotunda full of uniformed firefighters, literally in a shouting match with each other. And it was over the cancer presumption bill, and it occurred to me immediately that day that this just can't be this way. And so at the time, the main proponent of the cancer presumption bill was Representative Michelle Cook. And I'm sure she'll remember, she didn't know me and I didn't know her, and I grabbed her in the hallway walking through. Actually, one of my lobbyists did and pulled us aside. And I said, look, you do what you have to do this session, I understand that. But if this bill is not successful, I'm committed to work with you to get something done. And Representative Cook put together that working group that was shortly thereafter joined by Senator Wong. And municipal officials and firefighters and some others got in a room together and ultimately worked out the cancer presumption bill. I'm convinced that it's because of that is one of the main reasons why we're here today. Because something more important, maybe not more important to the firefighters, I understand, but more important to me, came out of that, and that was trust. There were relationships and trust that were built between municipal leaders and leaders, particularly of IPFFA and then others. And building on that trust is what ultimately got us to work out this very important legislation. So I give a lot of thanks to Representative Cook for being willing to put in the hard work behind the scenes to not only get that initial legislation done, but also to build those necessary relationships that we're still benefiting from today. And the other person that I want to recognize, because one of the things that was unique about this was we had in cancer, we had a representative, a legislator who was sort of taking the lead and holding everybody together and putting her finger on us when we got out of line and, you know, doing all those types of things. And there were times she was stern and sometimes she brought people together collaboratively. But when we put together this working group, it was very important that we had somebody else who could take on that role and lead us through this. And that person had to be someone who was vested in making something happen, who had expertise in the issue, but at the same time didn't have a bias toward one side or the other. And all of the people around the table agreed to bring in a guy named John Hanson from Willis Towers and Watson. Where's John? I know he's in the room here somewhere. There's John in the back. He's hiding in the back. He has And what I can tell you is the bill that ultimately became law was draft number 970,000, I think, that John put together. But he stuck with us through this process, and he brought in, you know, real data and an analytical view from other states and even outside of the country, other countries that were doing things like this. And he had patience. You may not all know this, but our organization, CCM and Labor, we don't always see eye to eye on every single issue. But John worked through that, and he kept us working together. He made it to where when meetings were over with, we didn't just break up and go into our corners, but we went out, we had a bite to eat, and we continued our conversations. And you may not hear a ton about John Hanson in Connecticut going forward, but I can tell you that he's getting calls from all over the country with other states asking him to take the Connecticut model and to help them with this issue. So I know he's going to go on and do big things with this as well. And Pete, that may be record time for me. Those of you here in the press, you write something nice about Michelle, you write something nice about John Hanson. I don't care what you say about me. It's all been said already, but these folks deserve a lot of credit. And I want to thank all of you who were part of this working group and part of this process, who I think we all realize that we get a whole lot more done when we work together than when we get in our own corners. So thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Thanks, Joe. And he's right. Thank you, John, for all your work coming up from Atlanta. It truly was an incredible undertaking. Our next speaker leads a union of 317,000 firefighters and paramedics in more than 3,400 affiliates across the United States and Canada. Under his leadership, he has ensured that the IAFF is at the forefront in addressing health issues for the fire service, including cancer and behavioral health. And that the IAFF is leading efforts to ensure members struggling with post-traumatic stress and other behavioral issues, which includes opening the IAFF Center of Excellence in Behavior for Behavioral Health Treatment and Recovery, that's specifically for IAFF firefighters. By him taking time out of his incredibly busy schedule to be here for this bill signing, again reaffirms his commitment to those 317,000 firefighters and paramedics for firefighter mental health. Therefore, it is my distinct honor to introduce to you Harold Shapeberger, General President of the IAFF.
Thanks, Rick. And I have the same affliction of when people expect me to say a few words. And so I will try also. No, let me, instead of attempting to thank everybody who has such an incredible role in this incredible moment, let me, on behalf of our 317,000 members, our International Vice President, Jay Colbert, my dear friend, brother, for over 4 decades, Pete Carosa and Lou D'Amici and Rick, the work that you've done. All I can say is how proud I am of all of you that represent the men and women that are in service to our communities every single day. And Governor, when you place your signature on this legislation to then once again make it the law of the land and to have Connecticut recognize that the challenges of mental and emotional and post-traumatic stress is an occupational injury. And it's just as much an occupational injury as I said this morning at the station, as somebody blowing out a leg. And these Connecticut's finest and bravest who put themselves on the line every single day, responding under some of the most trying conditions, and facing some of the most challenging issues that oftentimes brings with it an internal and quiet and silent injury. This recognition and this legislation is hopefully going to make the statement that this state and its citizens and all the elected officials are showing an appreciation and a recognition of the service and work that you all do. Post-traumatic stress isn't just a term. And I can say on behalf of our union and our 317,000 members that this is an issue that we ignored for far too long. This is an issue where for too many generations, someone who might have an emotional, mental, or behavioral health issue may have been thought to be weak, couldn't take it. Suck it up and do your job, or maybe you're on the wrong job. And the fact of the matter is that these injuries are serious and severe, and they're real. And that we now need to be able to bring them out of the shadows and into the light. We need to be able to embrace and create a path so that those that are experiencing these terrible circumstances and incidents feel comfortable and confident that they have a path to be able to step forward and receive the kind of care and treatment that they're entitled to and that they've earned. And so this legislation today, once signed, will be one more state in our journey of many states who are now recognizing this as an occupational related injury that deserves the kind of recognition and treatment that we provide to other more traumatic injuries. So I'm just thankful on behalf of our membership to a great governor, Mr. Mayor, meeting you and thanking you this morning, to all of the legislators here who really make this happen and brings it to the desk, and to all of the organizations, unions, my sister and brother unions that were a part of this. This is important, and it's more than important because this is about saving lives. And I don't want to be graphic, but I said this morning that our industry, our profession is losing more lives right now, self-taken, than we're losing in the line of duty. And so we need to make sure that we are embracing it and providing it the kind of support and coverage, the benefits and the workman's comp entitlements that those and my brothers and sisters in blue, and certainly those on our line, have earned. So thank you all for what you've done, particularly those that had your hands on this, voted on this, and now are about to sign it. Thank you.
Thank you, General President Schaeferger. Our next speaker is as tenacious a legislator as they come. When she gets behind an issue, be it as the Senate Chair of Appropriations or Vice Chair of the Labor Committee, she doesn't quit when she believes in that issue. She has fought long and hard to pass legislation providing PTS coverage for police officers and firefighters. As a former Army sergeant and serving 21 years at the Department of Corrections, she knows only too well the issue of PTS. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Senator Kathy Austin.
Thank you very much, Rick, for that very kind introduction. I worked in corrections for 21 years, and I had many of my colleagues, both while I worked in corrections and since I've left. I've had over 20 of my colleagues who have taken their lives. This is a real issue, and we need real help for people who take their time to run into situations that all of us run away from. And I think that that's the most important thing that we do in the legislature, is to protect those who protect us, to be that voice when people will not be that voice. Many of you know Trish, and Trish lost her husband, and he had asked for help for a lot of years and finally couldn't take it anymore and took his own life. I don't want to see any other families go through what Trish's family has had to go through. It's important that we help those who help us every single day. I want to thank Neil O'Leary for stepping forward. He and I had words now and again about this bill. I think we're both probably really strong-willed people, but this is important. This is life-saving. This is family-saving. This is helping our society. This is what we do. This is what we should do. And I look forward to future fights on this issue to have people remember post-traumatic stress is as real as a broken leg, is as real as any other injury that happens. And we need to start remembering that the brain is a part of the body, an important part of the body. And I look forward to more work like this. I want to thank Trish because she's never let me forget. This is about her and her family. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Austin. Through his leadership and perseverance, the firefighters, state police, and municipal police unions were able to sit and successfully negotiate with CCM the draft language that we could deliver to the legislature. And we did. His dedication to the task was unparalleled. His commitment to us, the police and fire union, was unwavering. We struck a deal, we stood by the deal, and we have Mayor Neil O'Leary to thank for this. So it is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you the mayor of the great city of Waterbury, Mayor Neil M. O'Leary.
Hi, everyone. So many of you don't know, but I actually grew up in this firehouse. My father worked here for 35 years, and I was up and down that pole probably 200 times. 5 brothers and sisters. We used to come here almost every day around 5 o'clock because firemen know how to cook so well. My mom said, "Oh, it's too hot to cook. Let's go see Dad at the firehouse because they always have leftovers." Anyways, it was a great experience being the son of a Waterbury firefighter, and it's a great experience standing here with all of you today. I am very grateful to all the leadership that has taken the time out of your summer schedule to be here today. I really am eternally grateful. I do believe that Peter Carosa probably had as much to do with this as anyone, as it was Peter who called me up to his office in, where's that, Wethersfield, or wherever we were, West Hartford. And Peter's brother, Tom, as a police officer with me, actually broke me in. And his brother Patrick was one of my bosses. Then Tommy became the big boss, and we had a lot of fun together and worked hard together. Tom was the president of the police union. Peter was president of the fire union, and that's where all that heart and hypertension came from. That's what former Mayor Bergen used to say, God rest his soul. It's an honor to be here with all of you. I do want to take a moment to recognize Senator Kathy Austin. We did have a few clashes here and there. Kathy is a lot like me. I love to fight, by the way. I love to argue. I think you learn a lot from arguing, and as long as you learn after the argument that the argument needs to end. And I'm honored to be here with you today, Kathy, and I want to tell you I've learned an awful lot from you and your passion for this bill, and it was an eye-opening experience for sure, and I'm grateful. I also want to take a moment to make sure we thank our Republican friends who are here with us here today. Meetings with Kevin Witkos and Senator Minor, in addition, of course, to all of the Democratic reps who worked on this. I know Michelle's been mentioned. There's been many, many others. It's a bill that had to happen. It's a bill, I think, that is written, and a bill that has been mentioned as already being viewed as a starting point, and in some cases an ending point in states across the country. I think it addresses the issues that are most important to all of us. Is it perfect? Probably not. Will it need work? Probably yes. Others need to be included on it. I think we all recognize that, but it's a great starting place. And I'm really, really grateful, not only as the president of CCM, but also as the mayor, because I stood by on the sidelines. I wasn't involved in the cancer bill, but I watched and learned from that, and I agree with Joe DeLong. I think that that opened the door for other communications, trust, relationship building. And I've got to tell you, I enjoy working very closely with both caucuses and the leadership of both caucuses. And the fact that the leadership is here today speaks volumes of their commitment to public safety, police officers, firefighters, and all the others that serve as well. So I'm honored again to be here with you all today, and I'm very grateful. And I can tell you that after this, there's a little party at Drescher's right down the street, and you're all very much welcome to join us there. And I would also take a moment now to introduce our next speaker. So Governor Lamont, during his campaign for governor, was a frequent visitor to Waterbury, and we had several conversations about PTSD, or I like to call it PTSI, and I was trained by a firefighter, I think, out of East Hartford, post-traumatic stress injury, and learning a lot from that individual, and talking to then campaigning Ned Lamont about things like this and things that are important to all of us in public safety, all of us who serve, all of us who recognize the impacts of public safety on family members and our children. And many of you know, many of our children choose to go into these professions because they admire the work that their parents are doing and their grandparents are doing. And the governor had a passion for this and an ear for this. And I really sincerely mean that. And then after being elected, we had further conversations about this, and he was very, very pleased that we all were in a room working together and working with the delegation as well. And I was really taken back by his interest in the bill and making sure that we were addressing issues that concern our public safety folks. And so I really had grown a great admiration for him, both as a candidate and now as governor, as someone who really recognizes and understands the commitment of individuals in public safety. So without further ado, come on up, Governor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Neil. I'm just reminded, hearing these testimonials, sometimes you can make a difference in public service. And as Pete said, this is a good bill. This is a bill that's going to make a difference in people's lives. And that's why we're here. I was reminded, listening to Harold and Kathy, that PTSD, it is an injury. And physical and mental are the same. And they're both ailments, and we both have to deal with that in a real way. We passed a bill the other day, mental health parity with Patrick Kennedy, and this is following on that same lead. What a difference you can make in people's lives. And I was reminded, listening to Joe and sort of the battles that went behind this. I was the mayors and Andy and Pete and Neil, Kathy, and I'm in the legislature, but it also reminds you what we can do when we work together. And Joe, you mentioned the word trust, and sometimes you give a little to get a lot, and I think that's what we did today. And I wish we had done this some time ago. We're here remembering Tricia's husband. I was told about Tommy Byrne. It would have been his birthday here today. Sandy Hook seems like yesterday. And we learn from these things. We roll up our sleeves, we get together, and we're a much stronger state when we work together. And this bill reminds us why we show up every day and work with trust and make a difference in people's lives. So with that, let's sign the bill.
Can we have the legislators in the first row come up to get behind the governor, please?
All right.
I don't want to drop this.
I'm getting the hang of this.